Hey everybody. So today we're going to talk about the moon. Here's the card for it. And the moon is a what needs to be expressed. In the way a planet is the what energy needs to be expressed. The house is where or what area of life, and the sign is how the energy needs to be expressed or wants to express itself. So we are talking about the moon. The moon is at home in Cancer, or domicile. I'll probably never get that fucking word right. So it's at home in Cancer. It is considered exalted in Taurus, meaning it tends to be at its highest potency or strength or way of functioning in Taurus. Or it strives for this in Taurus. Sometimes that doesn't always happen. It depends on the whole chart, but it strives for this in Taurus. It is considered in fall in Scorpio. Scorpio is opposite Taurus. That means that when the moon falls in Scorpio, it might have a hard time expressing itself the way that the moon would naturally want to express itself, whereas like in Cancer or in Taurus, it has an easier time. Then the moon is also in detriment in Capricorn. Capricorn is opposite Cancer on the axis. The moon can also have a difficult time expressing itself in Capricorn as well, expressing what the moon wants to express. Which makes sense because Capricorn is a more serious, less emotional sign. That energy is. So it makes sense that the moon, which is more emotional in nature, would have a more challenging time expressing itself in Capricorn. And in Scorpio energy is so intense and so deep that sometimes the emotions in Scorpio, when the moon is in Scorpio, can be overwhelming. Or that can happen, not universal, but that can happen where the emotions are just more overwhelming or consuming, perhaps even obsessive compulsive in nature. Depends on what else is going on. But anyway, so those are the dignities. Now, what does the moon want to express? The moon is, as I said before, the moon is emotions, right? The moon wants to express emotions. Obviously, how it does this depends on the sign that the moon falls in. So if you've got the moon in, say, I don't know, let's say you've got the moon in Libra. Perhaps the moon wants to express emotion in a more balanced way. Perhaps it strives for that. Doesn't mean it always happens, but it strives for that. There could also be, maybe in Libra, the moon, there's kind of an apathy towards emotions, because I know I mentioned that in the Libra video, that Libra energy can sometimes be kind of apathetic. These are just some things that you can play around with. Definitely not universal. The concept of the mother is here too. Now, I've seen people say that the moon is always representative of the mother. It really depends on the chart. I mean, is that a pretty good place to start when you're chart weaving? Thinking of the moon as like the mother and mothering? Absolutely. Definitely start with that. It may not always fit just right. It really depends. I might think that nurturing is a better way to say that. Like, perhaps the way you need to be nurtured or how you nurture, than thinking of it solely as the concept of the mother. I feel like that could kind of fuck you up a little bit. But you definitely can think about it in terms of mothering. Let's see. Okay, so the moon, like security, this is probably one of the reasons why it is exalted in Taurus, because Taurus energy strives for security and stability. The moon is looking for security too. It's looking for stability. It's looking for those things as well in an emotional way. So that's probably why it's exalted in Taurus. Because the moon, regardless of where it falls, does need security, right? Just depending on where it falls is how it finds that. Moods, your moods. The moon can be moody. That's not always bad though. Not always. I mean, it depends on what your moods are like. Are they like crazy, fluctuating all over the fucking place? That might be a little harder to deal with. But there is a natural changeability to the moon in terms of emotions. Which makes sense. And it's a fast moving planet because the moon moves quickly. It makes its cycle in 28 days. So I think the changing of moods here also has to do with the actual motion of the moon being pretty fast. Again, how your emotions change and kind of what sets them off depends on everything else going on in your chart. Intuition. The moon is intuitive. The moon is also very feminine. It is feminine energy. It is. Just naturally. Again, kind of like I mentioned in in the Mars and Venus videos. A lot of this has to do with how society responds to it, right? Because we all have masculine and feminine qualities, right? But depending on where you grew up and the society that you live and all of those kinds of things, you know, it may not have been as acceptable for like a guy to express emotions, say, or express his moon, or somebody that identifies, you know, as male to express their moon in a more nurturing and caring way. I think it depends more on how society responds to the moon and to your emotions. I mean, regardless if you're masculine, feminine, or identifies anywhere on the spectrum of that. We all have emotions. We all need to express them. Just depends on, you know, where the moon falls in your chart as to how you might do that, and then how the society in which you live responds to it. The moon is also like nostalgia, reflection, thinking back on things. There's definitely those qualities with the moon as well. Let me see. Yeah, you know, I think that's actually pretty good. Oh, your emotional core. I already mentioned emotions, but definitely your emotional core. Definitely. That would be the what, depending on what house it falls in. The core of you is also the fourth house. The moon does have an affinity for the fourth house. Just like Cancer has an affinity for the fourth house. You don't have to think of them as natural rulers, but they do have an affinity for the fourth house. So, but you know, depending on where your moon falls, your emotional core may come out in other areas of life too. yeah, I think that's pretty good. So when reading a chart, I would definitely universally, the moon is emotion, right? It is. I will say that. There aren't a whole lot of things that are totally universal, but when you're reading a chart, definitely start with think of the moon as being emotions. Think of it that way. And then branch out to other things, but I would definitely start with the moon being emotions. Absolutely. That's generally a great place to start here. But yeah, so I'm gonna get going. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at Let's Fuck With Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Avaturno Astrology on Instagram. If you're watching this on Instagram, you can find us on YouTube by searching Let's Fuck With Astrology in the search bar. If you do the Reddit thing, you can find us on the subreddit Let's Fuck With Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, you can find them at letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. Okay, everybody. I'll see y'all later.